Well, folks, welcome to this week's episode of Trigger Effect. And this is an episode Kent and I have talked about for about the last 3-4 years of doing, where we're going to sit down now and reminisce about our first 4 seasons of Trigger Effect.
That's right, Dean. And we're going to share with you some of our favorite locations that we've hunted in, some of our favorite hunts that we've been on, and we're going to have a harvest highlight reel you're not going to want to miss. Plus, we're going to share with you some of the bloopers that we've had over the past 4 seasons, some that made it to episodes, some that didn't, and we're going to give a special thanks to all the people that helped us get to this point.
Definitely. And you know what, Kent, talking about favorite places, when you said that, the first thing that popped to my mind is something that came back to my cowboy and Indian days. Was Lusk, Wyoming, when we went after pronghorn. I mean, it was so arid, rattlesnakes, and just an absolutely incredible location to visit.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, we also filmed down in southern Texas. I mean, so far south we would have been in Mexico if we went any further. There it was arid, it was hot, it was dry, everything had stickers on it. We were hunting hogs down there, lots of hogs. We had a great time. Again, it was just a beautiful location to hunt.
That's right. And speaking of hogs, it does bring back memories of our Bald Hills hunt in California. Same thing. It was a little bit drier, not as dry as Texas, no prickers either, but it was like parkland. It looked like somebody had mowed the lawn, around the trees. It was just a beautiful, beautiful location.
Yeah, and if you go a little bit further north from California, you get to Vancouver Island. Again, Dean and I visited Vancouver Island on a blacktail hunt. The weather was stunning. It was absolutely beautiful. The location, again, those coastal mountains are great. Our hunt didn't turn out as well as we would have hoped, but boy, we were having fun. It was just such a beautiful trip.
Yeah, that's right. And speaking of the coastal mountains, Jason and I headed a little further north up into the terrace country, and that northwest is stunning. And we were actually hunting pheasant. That's right, I said pheasant. But however, being in that green grass and looking up at those towering coastal mountains, wow, that was an incredible location to film.
Yeah, that's for sure. And when you talk north, one of my favorite places to go in the north is Mickey Lake. It's in northern British Columbia. It's an area I used to guide for years. It's some of the best moose habitat I've ever seen in my career. And again, Dean and I had a great trip on that. I'm sure we're going to see some pictures of that.
We're going to see some pictures, and I hope we get to go back again, because it really was beautiful. But it also reminds me of another area that you used to guide that for years you kept saying, Dino, you got to come up, which is Schmuck Lake in northern Manitoba. And for folks, if you have not been to the Canadian tundra, you need to get there, because it is so untouched. It is so remote. You've got wolverine running around, you got caribou running around. We had wolves on that trip. Just everything you see, on northern Canada, that is what the Manitoba tundra was.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, we hunt from the deserts and the plains and the southern regions up to the tundra. Again, I have to revert back to the coastal mountains. We went on a fishing trip out in Prince Rupert. Again, the weather was fantastic. The scenery was stunning, and eating fresh crabs on the boat for breakfast wasn't a bad thing either.
I'd go back just for that, that's for sure. But you know what, when you're talking about sheer beauty, I mean, for me, one of the areas that's very special to me is Klickitat Valley with Tracy Zoller.
Yeah.
It's in Washington State. You're driving around, it's kind of that farmland, and then you plummet into this deep ravine, and that's Klickitat Valley. I mean, it is beautiful. It's all terracing. You've got the most beautiful wildflowers I've ever seen any location I've filmed at.
Yeah, well, Dean and I are very fortunate to hunt and travel to some of these locations. I mean, right here in this setting, we're here at Pistol Lake. It's in central Manitoba. It's the Cambrian Shield country. The lakes are chock full of fish. Beauty's everywhere we go. We find beauty in all the trips that we go on.
That's right, Kent. You know what, if I was to pick my favorite location, though, I got to go back to my home province of British Columbia, to the Tashodi River.
Yeah.
We went in for elk hunting, the drive all the way up the Alaska Highway, the jet boat up the Musqueam, then up the Tashodi, the hike way back into country where very few people's boots have seen. I mean, it was pristine elk habitat. I don't think I've experienced anything that was as remote and as beautiful as the Tashodi.
Oh, that's for sure. And I mean, my favorite, I might be a little bit biased here, but I actually got to travel as far as we've ever traveled for the first 4 seasons, and that was to the South Island in New Zealand. There, the scenery was absolutely stunning. It was game-rich environment, big mountains. It is where they filmed Lord of the Rings, and I definitely want to go back. I know you want to go.
Oh, I'd love to go. I mean, it's one of the hunts I was jealous not to be on.
Yeah.
But anyways, we've talked enough about some of the beautiful locations. What Kent and I are going to do after this commercial break is we're going to pick 1 or 2 of our most favorite hunts and explain to you why they were our most favorite. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Regent Custom Cresting. Trigger Effect. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Trigger Effect.
Hi folks, thanks for joining us again. As we mentioned in our first segment, Dean and I are going to revisit some of our most memorable hunts we've ever been on. Dean, can you start us off?
Yeah, I will. And you know what? I'm not going to start with a single hunt, but I'm going to talk about something that was a big influence on me becoming a hunter and starting Trigger Effect, which was my father.
Yeah.
My dad, in the first season, I dreamt that we'd be able to do some father-son hunts with both of our dads, and unfortunately, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. We were able to get out in I can't remember the episode, but I do remember it was season 1 for sturgeon on the Fraser River, and it was an incredible fish. I wish I would have known at the time it was the last hunting and fishing trip my dad would be on. And then a year later, when we went there, he never got to see an episode. He passed away. And then we went on our moose hunt up to Mickey Lake. And I knew at that time that hunt was going to be special because that's going to be the animal I dedicated to my dad in his honor. And when that moose came out and, it was coming towards us, and I figured I was going to get it with a bow, and then it turned around and it went back across the bay. You did everything you could in your calling power to stop him when I got that moose. It was a flood of emotion because it was one way for me to honor my father and say thank you, Dad, for making me who I am as a hunter.
Yeah, I mean, we all grieved the passing of your father with Trigger Effect, and I'm sure with some of our fans. But one of the most memorable hunts I was on was, again, reverting back to childhood memories. Ever since I was a small boy, I dreamt about harvesting a red stag. I was fortunate enough to go to the South Island in New Zealand. I harvested a magnificent red stag bull with my bow, and again, it was in some of the most stunning country I've ever seen. It was game-rich environment, and there was a flood of emotion when I harvested that bull because it was one of those childhood dreams that I finally was able to realize.
Well, and I think that's why we all hunt, is for that emotion. I mean, it's so much more than just getting the animal. But before we move on to our next stories, I think we should join our partners at Lethbridge College for Conservation Connection.
Conservation Connection is brought to you by Lethbridge College.
One of the toughest things to do is judge size on a black bear, and that's even more so for telling the age of a black bear. Joining me from Lethbridge College is Shane Roersma, who's one of the wildlife instructors, and you're going to help shed a little bit of light on aging these animals.
Yeah, Dean. Often when we look at the skull of a bear to actually ascertain age accurately, a lot of people will measure or weigh a bear, and there's some correlations there, but the most accurate way is by looking at the teeth, actually. So the teeth tell us a lot about the age of the bear. For example, these two teeth right here, these molars, they would only be found at least after your second year of the actual birth of the animal. But not a lot of hunters will be harvesting an animal that small. We can also look at the wear of the teeth, right? These are capped in enamel, which is a very durable substance, but bears in the wild can live upwards of 25 years, so they will show dramatic wear. However, the best way to ascertain age would be to extract one of these teeth, and then we have a special machine that actually takes a small little slice of a bone called cementum. If we stain that, you can actually age them very similar to counting the rings in a tree. Canines work really good for that, but hunters kind of prize that for their specimens, so these small little premolars will work out fine.
That's some fantastic information. So when you're keeping that skull as a trophy, it's telling you a lot more than just the score of the animal. It's letting you know an accurate age. Well, thank you very much to our partners at Lethbridge College. And you know what, to kick off again talking about favorite hunts, I want to go back to something that probably every hunter wishes they could have seen, which is the millions of buffalo running all over the prairies. And for me, that leads into my favorite hunt, which is the Central Barren Ground Caribou hunt up at Schmuck Lake, because that's really the only place you can go to and see that many big game animals everywhere. And I know I was really excited about it. I finally listened to you and I went up there. And the first bull really brings a lot of memory because I was with our cameraman Trent Headley, and Trent spotted this bull, and we were sitting and looking at it, and it was working down through, and there was this little gap in the vegetation, and Trent said, we got to get up to that gap, he's going to cut in there. So we snuck up through the vegetation, and that bull came in just like on a string, turned sideways, came in. I planted the perfect shot. And I remember when that bull went down, I had a whole flood of emotion because, this is an animal that lives in probably some of the toughest environment in Canada. And they're so beautiful, and just a powerful creature puts it at the top of my list.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was guiding up there at the time, Dean, and one of the other places I like to guide is in northern BC, where you and I went on that hunt to Mickey Lake. We were hunting big Canadian moose. It's one of my favorite species to go after, and we had a spectacular hunt. You harvested a bull, but my bull was really special to me because I was able to take him with archery equipment. I mean, we didn't have an easy time with that bull. It was 4 days of hard calling and trying, and we got in on him. He finally presented a shot on that fourth day. I took my shot, slipped an arrow in through the vitals. The bull only went about 30 yards, piled up. I mean, it was a really, really emotional time for me because I finally got my 60-inch bull with a bow, and it's got to be up into one of my top hunts that I've ever been on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I know for me it was a special hunt as well, and
Yeah.
we're planning on going back. But you know, stick around, folks, because in the next segment we're going to get to what everybody wants to see, which is a compilation of all of our harvests put in together in one. So you will not want to miss this.
Make sure you come back for some more hunting action with Trigger Effect after this commercial break. Welcome back to Trigger Effect.
Well, thanks for coming back, folks. I know this segment's pretty important to both Dean and I. I know you've been waiting for it. This is our harvest highlight reel. We're going to start off with some wing shooting.
That's right, Ken. We've been really fortunate to travel all over North America chasing waterfowl, wild turkey, as well as upland game birds. So enough talking, let's get to the shooting. We're done. Wow, Kent, that was a lot of feathers flying. We've really been fortunate to hunt like ringneck pheasant and snow geese and Canada geese and, you know, wild turkey all over North America. I mean, what memories.
Yeah, those are some great memories. Now, but before we move on to our big game memories, let's visit Mike Holland, the resourceful redneck, and see what he has to say.
Tips and techniques are brought to you by Resourceful Redneck, featuring Mike Holland.
Today's segment is going to focus on bear safety. One of the issues that hunters face is curious bears climbing the tree that they're set up in. There's actually products in the market today that will help prevent that bear from climbing the tree that you're in. That way, you can focus on the action that's on the ground and not in your lap. Well, that's today's segment. Thank you for joining us. Please go to our website to get some more information. Now let's get back and see how the guys are doing.
Well, thank you very much to our own resourceful redneck, Mike Holland. But now it's time for big game.
Yeah, we're not going to forget coyotes, are we?
No, we won't forget coyotes.
I like shooting coyotes. So now let's get out in the field and let's pull some triggers. folks, that's a lot of shooting all put together. It looks really easy when it's all lumped together like that.
That's right, but what we also know though, Kent, is it's not that easy.
No.
As a matter of fact, you get to see the cream of the crop on TV. What you miss is what happens in behind the scenes, which is bloopers, retakes, and goof ups, and I think that's coming up next.
Yeah, we've got our blooper section coming up, plus our special thanks, so don't go away.
Stay tuned for more Trigger Effect after this commercial break. Welcome back to Trigger Effect.
Well, folks, welcome back to Trigger Effect, and I know this is a segment we're looking forward to. As everybody knows, we've always put bloopers at the end of every episode. However, now we're dedicating the better half of a segment to bloopers.
That's right, Dean. I mean, our entire Trigger Effect team, we all have a good sense of humor. We like to have fun in front of the camera, but there's also a lot of fun that happens behind the camera.
That's right, and another source of bloopers as well too is with the modern day, editing techniques that makes us look really good. But the reality is we goof up interviews all the time, and that's another great source of funny moments.
Yeah, you bet. So let's not waste any more time. Let's take a look at these clips at some of the funniest moments we've had here at Trigger Effect.
Right here. Foul play outfitters, quit laughing.
This is like take 25. Oh, I'm not getting this at all. But today, and this guy is still fighting us. Oh man! His butt is round.
Twerk it, baby, twerk it.
Oh, yeah, hopefully something happens here.
I think that's a blooper reel.
Okay. I don't have a bat in the cave, do I? Okay, hold on. Ready.
See what it does? It helps bring out the flavor in the berry skins.
Oh, okay. Do you ever worry about flare-ups or anything like that?
Me personally, or I'm not sure what you're asking.
Joining with the sleeve proctor of Evan Lake Outfitter to the beautiful lodge of Pistol Lake Lodge. So let's go see the town. And I said lodge twice, and I'm not sure if I should have said lodge twice, maybe 3 times.
I think 3 times.
Lodge.
Lodge.
Collected a lot of birds and I'm talking way too long, I can tell, and we're gonna have to do another take.
Open your mouth. Mealyworm in the mouth.
Oh. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, it was, yeah.
Do the happy dance, Dean.
That bird
Doesn't take much. Those are some great bloopers, weren't they, Dean? They're one of my favorite parts of the show. But let's take a minute right now and thank all the people that helped us get to this point.
That's right. It takes an entire group to pull off a show like Trigger Effect, and we'd like to thank Corey Dukeman, Rick Kemp, Lindsay Batt, Trent Headley, and Ryan English. We'd like to put a very special thank you out to Gary Dukeman, who was a co-host with us in season 1 and 2 and had to move on in order to spend more time with family.
You bet. And also, we don't want to forget our outfitters. We rely heavily on outfitters to help us produce 13 episodes a year, some of which we hunt with multiple times. Special thanks goes out to them and all their support.
Yeah, and another group of people is sponsors. I mean, if it wasn't for sponsors, there would be no hunting television. We'd like to thank our current sponsors, and we'd like to thank all of our past sponsors as well.
That's right, and our families especially. Without the support of our families on and off the camera, we could not produce Trigger Effect TV. And a special thanks to your wife, Denise.
Yeah, that's right. Denise, I love you very much. We really, really appreciate all the work you do on behalf of Trigger Effect. However, we left the most important to last, and that's our fans, you. We did this, we started this, everything we do is for our fans, and your support both on social media, on camera, off camera, is absolutely critical to us. Thank you so much, and we really look forward to bringing season 5 to you because it's a new beginning.
Go to www.cwtf.ca and click on their membership tab. This has been a Thunder Boys production.